guys, this is Food by Faith and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to be doing a Kentucky butter cake. So stay tuned, join in, and let's have some fun while we cook up some great treats for our family and friends. So the ingredients that we have for our cake, we have 3 cups all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, a half teaspoon of salt, 3 cups of granulated sugar, 5 large eggs, a half cup of butter flavored shortening, 2 sticks of unsalted butter. We're going to use lemon extract and vanilla extract. You guys know that I make my own vanilla extract and I also make my own lemon extract, but I just recently ran out. And we're going to use buttermilk. So 1 cup of buttermilk, we're going to do 2 teaspoons of vanilla and 1 teaspoon of pure lemon extract. So let's get started. First, we are going to cream together our butter flavored shortening and our butter. And so the plus side of using butter flavored shortening in a pound cake recipe versus using all butter is you get a softer crumb to the cake. Whenever you use all butter in a cake recipe, you get a stiffer consistency. The cake is still good, but you get a stiffer consistency. The more oils and shortenings that you use, especially oil, the softer your cake will be. But traditionally, pound cakes are set to be a little firm with the crispy bottom, and so that's why you only use this much of the shortening. Make sure while you're mixing up your ingredients that you have your bundt pan already greased and floured, and you have your oven temperature at 325 degrees. So I'm going to stop this for a second and I'm going to brush down the sides. And we do this to make sure that everything gets incorporated. Okay, that's nice and combined. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our eggs and our sugar. So I like to crack my eggs into a separate container just in case one is spoiled or you just so happen to get a double yolk, because you do not want to add more eggs than you're supposed to. So let me step away and get a container. And remember, do not throw your eggshells away. You can always blend them up and add them to your garden. Alright, so once you have egg number 5 placed in there, what I like to do is I like to stop my blender and then add my sugar in instead of pouring it in right now because I don't want it to plume out. So I'm going to bring you in just a little bit closer so that you can see a little bit more of what we have going on. Let's go ahead and scrape down the sides and the bottom. And see, that's the benefit of having a glass bowl while you're mixing, because you can see and make sure that everything is getting mixed in. They sell a lot of pretty bowls to go with your mixers, but I'm pretty practical. Whatever I get, I need to make sure it's worth the use. Okay, so we have our 5 eggs inside, and we just poured our sugar in. We made sure we scraped our bowl to make sure that everything gets incorporated before we go to our next step. Okay, so we have incorporated our eggs and our sugar. Now we are going to put in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and a teaspoon of lemon extract. And guys, if you would like to purchase this extract, it will be linked below in my Etsy store. So we're going to blend those in. Again, I'm going to scrape down my sides. Smells really, really good. My daughter had a birthday on December the 23rd, and so yesterday I was making a sakatumi cake for her, so we have that, and my other daughter absolutely adores lemon cake, so I changed up this Kentucky butter cake recipe just a little bit to suit our lemon flavored lovers. So traditionally, Kentucky butter cake has vanilla and rum extract. So what I did was I removed the rum extract and substituted the lemon extract. And that's the same thing that I'm going to do with the syrup. But you'll see that later. Okay, so now what we are going to do is alternately add our buttermilk as well as our flour mixture. So our flour mixture again has 3 cups of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a half teaspoon of salt. So we are going to begin and end with our liquid. And so after our last addition, I'm going to scrape down the sides, and then we're going to mix for just a few seconds, and then it'll be ready to place into the pan. So that's our last addition of our flour. And remember, we're just pulsing because we don't want the flour to fly all over the place. And the reason why you do not add all of your flour mixture and your buttermilk all at the same time is because it will change the consistency of the cake. It doesn't seem like it will. You know, a lot of times we come on here and when we are baking together, I do a dump recipe. But the majority of the time when I'm doing the dump cake recipes, those recipes consist of less ingredients, and most of the time they're using oil instead of butter. And so those are easily incorporated, wherein these ingredients are a little bit thicker, and that is why, and you can tell by the consistency of the batter, that is why you want to alternate your mixing. And you will see in the final product, just by the look of the cake, that the consistency will be thicker, the cake will be larger. Guys, I use my clean hands because I want to get all my cake batter. And my spatula is a little big, so it's not going in between the middle of the beater. All right, guys. This is our cake batter. Very beautiful, very thick. And we're going to take it and we're going to place it into our cake pan. So let's get our cake into our greased and floured butt cake pan. Making a mess. Okay, then we're going to smooth our cake around the pan just a bit, just to make sure it's evenly placed. And then what we're going to do next is tap it on the counter just to remove any air pockets so that we don't get the air holes in the cake. All right, and now our cake is ready for the oven. And remember, we preheated our oven to 325 degrees, and now it's ready. We're going to set our temperature for an hour and 20 minutes. Our time, excuse me, not the temperature. But at the 1 hour mark, I'll come in and I'll check the cake. But before we go, I want to bring you in because while your cake is cooking, I want you to gather the ingredients for your glaze. So for your glaze, you're going to need a 1/3 cup of water, 1 stick of butter. You're going to need a 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. You're going to need a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a teaspoon of lemon extract, and those are the ingredients for our syrup. So whenever our cake is done, we are going to poke some holes in it, and we're going to pour the syrup all over the cake. And we're going to do it while the cake is still warm, and it'll absorb into the cake. All right? All right. We will come back at the 1 hour mark and check on things and see how they're doing. But continue to cook, guys. All right, guys, we are back. It has been an hour and 25 minutes. Our timer is going off now. We are going to take our skewer and place it into our cake to make sure it comes out clean. It smells so good in here. So we just take our skewer, we place it into our cake, and this is what you're looking for. That lets you know that your cake is done. So now we're going to take it from the oven. And of course, it has its signature cracked, crunchy topping. And while we were on break, what I did was make our syrup. I'm going to let you see inside. That was not a good view. So we made our syrup. And remember, what we placed in our syrup was 1 stick of butter. We had a 1/3 cup of water, a 1.5 cups of sugar, and now I'm going to put a teaspoon of vanilla extract and a teaspoon of lemon extract inside. And you cook the syrup on low till it's foamy. You do not want it to boil. See our beautiful cake there. You see I have my counter lined. It's lined with plastic wrap, and the reason for that is because what we're going to do is we're going to poke some holes into our cake, and we're going to pour our syrup into those holes. So let's get our lemon extract. And their vanilla extract. So you will have this syrup, some syrup left over. Woo! You will have some syrup left over. And what you'll do at that point is once the cake is completely cooled and you flipped it out of the pan and everything, at that point you'll reheat the syrup and you'll glaze the top of the cake with that syrup. So with this cake, it won't get the traditional powdered sugar glaze. It will get this syrup glaze. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the back portion of our skewer and we're going to poke some holes. You don't want to go all the way through the cake, because what you don't want to happen is for the cake to end up sticking to the pan. So we're going to poke these holes in the cake. Get as many in there as possible. And then we're going to ladle the syrup over it. And we're going to let the cake sit for maybe about 5 to 7 minutes. You don't want it to sit for too long because you don't want your cake to stick to the pan. So a Kentucky butter cake is a very rich, moist cake. And remember, when you are ladling your syrup over the top of the cake, make sure you have enough holes so that your syrup is going inside of the cake. And you don't have to so that's a good amount of syrup. What we're going to do is we're going to let this rest for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then we are going to flip our cake out of the pan and let it completely cool, and then we'll put the rest of the syrup on top. All right guys, it has been 5 to 7 minutes, and it is time to get this baby out of the pan. So remember what I showed you. We take our cooling rack, we place it on top of our cake, and then we flip. And make sure you always do it over your counter, because the pan can slip, the cooling rack can slip, and you don't want all that work and all those ingredients to end up on your kitchen floor. I don't care how clean your floor is. You don't want that cake to end up on your floor. All right, so there we go. Look at that beautiful cake. How amazing is that? That is a treat that your family is going to absolutely enjoy. And as you can see, we have a good amount of our syrup left. So after our cake completely cools, that's the purpose of the plate that is under here, as well as the counter being lined. That is so whenever the cake is completely cooled and we decide that we are going to ladle the rest of the syrup over the top, when things slide down through our grate here, we can just lift the plastic up, pull each side together, and drop that into the trash. We won't have syrup all over our counter. So you see I still have my oven on. I just put some brownies in there. I always got things going. But thank you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this lemon butter Kentucky lemon butter cake, excuse me. And I pray that it now becomes a part of your cake recipe kit. Have a happy holiday and enjoy. Remember, get up, get out, and grow something, and have faith in your food. All right, guys, we are back, and our cake is completely cooled. So now what we're going to do, I've already reheated our syrup, and what we're going to do is we're going to take, I'm not even going to use the entire remainder of the syrup, because Lord knows that would make an extremely sweet topping for the cake. So I'm going to use quite a bit of it that I'm going to ladle over the top. And remember, when you're reheating the syrup, you do not want to have it boiling. What you want is for it just to be able to be combined. So you want your sugar, your butter, your water, and your flavorings to be nice and combined, but you do not want anything to start boiling. So now that we have it heated through, we are going to begin to ladle. And this is all you're doing. Nothing spectacular, nothing fancy. You're just ladling that clear glaze on top of the cake. And remember, in the beginning, before we pulled the cake out of the oven, we had already put down some plastic wrap on the counter as well as a plate underneath here, so that when it's time for the cleanup process is easy. So all I have to do is take the four corners of the plastic wrap and pull them in and drop that into the trash. All right, guys, and there you have it, your Kentucky lemon butter cake. Bon appetit.